Hey there, welcome. Today I want to share with you guys a quick creative practice. It's a practice that I like to do to help me tune into my own authenticity and learn more about my individual preferences. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to spread out all of your art supplies. Even if you know that you're already feeling called to a particular medium, it's really important that you don't skip this step because you want to allow yourself the freedom to change your mind and to have all of these different tools at your disposal. And if you're someone who only has a few tools, that's totally okay as well. Just put everything that you do have in front of you so that you have easy access to it throughout the practice. Remember that this is a safe space for you. It ultimately doesn't matter what you create or what it looks like. The idea is that you're just making marks that feel right for you. And as I'm doing this, I don't want you to copy what I'm doing. I really want you to tune into your own preferences first. So you could even consider turning the video around and just listening to the audio. Then just begin by making some marks. You don't have to know exactly what you're creating, and it doesn't have to look like anything in particular. It can be completely abstract. It just needs to feel right. And doubt may arise for you. That's completely normal, and that's all a part of the process. This doesn't have to make sense, and it doesn't have to look like anything in particular unless you want it to. If you start to make marks and it looks like a particular form to you, maybe it looks like a person or a hat or a mountain, and you feel called to follow that, absolutely go for it. Now, you may wonder, what if I don't like what I create? I know this is supposed to be a practice and exploring my preferences, but what if I really just hate it? And I want you to know that that is okay. And This is definitely a practice in tuning into your preferences, but knowing what you don't like is just as important as knowing what you do. This is all an exploration into yourself. It's an opportunity to learn more about yourself. And if you don't like what you create, you can get curious about why. Maybe it's that you don't fully understand light and shadows, or you don't understand how to mix colors. And so, what you're feeling called to is not able to be created fully on the page. And all of that is just information that you can use later on. You can use that information now to maybe study some of the things that you want to have a deeper understanding of in your creative process. But the thing is that you don't necessarily have to understand any artistic concepts in order to create, and to create something that is really uniquely you. I think that's what is really special about this practice, is that you don't need to come in with any prior skill. You just need to come in with an open mind and the opportunity to explore. And if you have followed my art and you followed this channel for a while, you might notice that what I create here is quite different than what I would create when I have a vision in mind that I'm trying to bring to life on the canvas or on the paper. And both of these ways of creating, there's nothing wrong with either of them, but when we're in this space of openness and we're in this space of allowing, there is so much more freedom here. And that freedom creates so much opportunity, and it opens so many doors. It can really widen your creative practice and also widen your sense of self. And it's quite all right, again, if you don't like what ends up happening on the page. It's just information, and it will teach you something about your preferences. So rather than just saying, I don't like this, and wanting to crumple it up and throw it away, start to ask yourself, why don't I like that? What is it about it that I don't like? How am I judging it? What am I comparing it to? Was I expecting something different from myself? And know that it's quite all right if you were expecting something different from yourself. This is all an opportunity in learning. And as I tune into what I'm creating, I also want to tune into what it is that I do like, and I encourage you to do the same. So try not to get hung up on the parts that you don't like, and try to tune into what it is that you do. For me, I really like the variations and color and light that are forming on my paper. For you, maybe you see some natural shadows that are falling on your page from the room, and you like that and you want to trace them. Let yourself play and experiment and have fun in the not knowing. Allow yourself to just play in the unknown for a while, and to not know what will become of what's on the page. This is one of my favorite parts, is just getting to see what will happen. And I've been doing art for a while. There's still a lot that I'd like to learn, but I do have a basic understanding of light and shadow and color and composition. And so if you don't have that, if you haven't studied art, just know that what you're making might look pretty different than what you would like it to look like, but it's still going to give you a lot of information about yourself. And if you end up liking what I create more than what you create, that's all right too. Again, it's just information. We're not looking to compare ourselves. That's not the point of this exercise. The point of the exercise is to completely let go of the comparing and just allow yourself to be free, to allow yourself to create in ways that you might not normally, because you don't think that you can, or you don't think that's a possibility until you do it. And in this way, we can allow ourselves to expand our creativity, expand our definition of ourselves, and get to know what is possible. If you make a mark that you don't mean to make, I encourage you to play with it. I used to teach children's art classes, and one of the phrases that we used a lot in the class was, if you mess it up, dress it up. So if you make a mark that you don't mean to make, or you tried to make a stroke and it doesn't come out exactly the way that you were planning on, how can you dress that up and make it a part of what you're creating? Can you make a pattern out of it? Can you make a new form out of it? Understand that your mistakes don't necessarily have to be failures. They can be doorways into an expanded creativity. They don't have to mean that your piece is totally scrapped. A lot of the times the children would make a mistake and they would get upset and they would want to crumple up their paper and start all over again. And I think that that happens to us too as adults. We make a mistake and we think, well, this is totally ruined. I just need to start over. And instead, I want to encourage you to get creative, because that is the point. And when you make a mistake that you don't need to make, it just means that you now have an opportunity to create something that is totally unique. You get to make your mistakes a part of the beauty. At this point in my own project, I'm feeling uncertain about what to do with the bottom of my page. I have this idea to turn it into a face, but I am coming up against a little bit of like fear of putting a childish art style on top of this more like natural, beautiful art style that is the rest of the piece. And I'm hesitant because I feel like it might, in my eyes, ruin the piece, but that is not the point. The point is to play and to experiment. And so I'm going to allow myself to take that risk and just see what happens and know that it's okay if I end up not liking it. But I want to follow that inspiration and that call to experiment with something that is a little bit more unique. And I think this happens pretty often to a lot of people, is that we're comfortable with making something that is more neutral, that's like a landscape that's pretty easy to like. But sometimes we're hesitant to go to a place that is a little bit more offbeat, a little bit more odd or unusual. And there is definitely risk in that. But it's also an opportunity to just play as if we were children. And if we were children with absolute freedom, if we had never been taught what was likable, we would just allow ourselves to play in the unknown. And it can be so much fun when you allow yourself to do so. And don't be afraid to incorporate 3D objects as well. You can always get some glue and glue on magazine pieces or flower petals or really any object that you have that you feel called to. And if you start to feel stuck at all with one of the art supplies that you're working with, I encourage you to move on to something else. And this is part of the reason that we have all the art supplies laid out, so that you can continue your flow. If you start to feel stuck, you don't want to allow yourself to pause and get caught in the mind loop and in the thinking about what you're creating. You want to be able to keep creating. And so grab a different pen, grab a different pencil or paintbrush, and just experiment with some different textures, some different strokes, so that you can keep on playing. Something that I've learned about myself throughout this process and that I'm learning even deeper now in this moment is that I like art that is a little bit fun and funky, but in subtle ways. I like there to be some surprises for the viewer, but I also like when art kind of looks normal at first glance. But when you get a little bit closer or you look a little bit deeper, that there are some surprises there for the viewer. And I feel like this is kind of a reflection of myself. I've had a lot of people tell me that the more that they get to know me, the weirder I am. And I think that that's kind of fun. And it's fun to have art that is a reflection of that in me, that you don't get to see and to know all of me at a surface level. But you have to look a little bit deeper to really see the full picture of who I am as a human being and as a soul on this planet. I think I mentioned this earlier, but I'm going to say it again just in case because I think that it's really important. You have to be careful when you start to say that you don't like something that you're doing because you might try too hard to cover it up or you might get fixated on it. And you want to be careful not to fixate on the parts that you do not like and instead allow yourself to enjoy the parts that you do like. And I can almost guarantee that no matter what it is that you've created, there's got to be at least a little bit of that you do like. And this reflects in the way that we see ourselves. Are you somewhat that are you someone that tends to focus on the negative aspects of yourself? Or are you someone that tends to focus on the positive aspects of yourself? And if you're someone like myself at times who has a tendency to fixate on the parts that you want to fix or the parts that you don't really like, I want to encourage you to find what it is that you do like and put your energy there instead. Create more of what you do like. And this has happened to me throughout this creative practice, is that I notice that I'm fixating a little bit on the part that I feel is not quite right. And I'm trying to fix it and make it into something else instead of just accepting it and focusing on the parts that I really enjoy. And when you focus on the parts that you enjoy, When you focus on the parts of your art that you enjoy, or you focus on the parts of your life that you enjoy, you are feeding that energy, and you allow more of that to come into your space. And when you do that, you might just end up accidentally making the thing that you didn't like into something that you do. So there's just one little thing that I want to add to my piece before I wrap up. You are welcome to keep working on your piece as long as you feel called to, but for the sake of keeping this a fairly short practice, I'm going to wrap up and just add one more little detail here. If you liked this practice, please let me know in the comments. I would love to hear your feedback. This video is quite different than a lot of my other style videos. So if you like this sort of thing and you want to see more of it, definitely let me know. I also do offer one-on-one mentorships, creative mentorships, where we do this sort of practice where we use art as a tool for self-discovery, to get to know ourselves a little bit better, and to bring more of our full expression into the world. So if that is something that you're interested in exploring, I will leave a link for more details to creative mentorship with me in the description. So be sure to check that out. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and for doing this practice with me. I love creating these videos for you, and I'm just always so excited to publish another one and to connect with you guys on one of my favorite things, which is to be a creative little being in this funny little world that we live in. Sending you all so much love and blessings, and I will see you again soon. We have this little house floating in the clouds. Sometimes I wonder what life would be like if I had never been taught what was likable, and this is a way for me to tune into that idea of what is it that I like without all of the information coming from the outside about what I should like.